Down. Ooh, I'm eating brunch with my people though. The homie Dyke just cooked up a feast and we bout to eat it, bro. Fucked around and has to mix the lobster with the protein. Daddy is rolling blue dream. Them boys got down a routine. It's Naptown culture. Cooking 7 courses. Had to pass the torch and now I'm grabbing second portion. So sit back, relax, grab a drink and a smoke. It's Harder Brunch on the way and get prepared for the jokes. Whoa.
Hi, and welcome to the Harder Brunch Podcast. I'm your host, Dyke Michaels. With me is, not as always, my co-host, special fill-in co-host for the day, Dustin Burkert.
Slappy Pappy, wah wah.
On the ones, the twos, the wheels of steel from the Fresh and Clean podcast, special guest star producer, BJ Robbins.
Flyover Media is here. I just want to, Zach, I miss you and I love you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys both for coming in and filling in today. We have a very special first time guest in studio, and we had made plans. We all agreed we weren't going to do a podcast this weekend, and I found out that our guest was coming, and I was like, we'll put together a skeleton crew. We'll figure it out. We'll bring in the ringers. Anna Bianco.
Hello.
Bianco, right?
Yeah, but whatever comes out.
What flavor do you like it?
I prefer it never to be spoken.
Under
the radar.
Just to be
non-flavor.
Yeah. Imperceivable.
Oh, yeah. I don't like being perceived, personally.
Do you get, because like, I got to say, the reason I was a fan is because I was like, there's two people, I guess in recent memory, you and like Dustin Nickerson, that like just came across all of my social medias in the past couple of years, and it was just like, whether I wanted to or not, and I was just like,
and to be clear, you did not want to.
But I was just like, yeah, I like you have great like crowd interactions, and like I don't know, it's just like this gal's got moxie. I don't know. And then I saw you were coming to Bloomington to Hoppy Wobbles, and I was like, why is this New York comic coming to Hoppy Wobbles? She doesn't need it. She's better than that room. And then I realized, oh, you have family in Bloomington.
First of all, no one's better than Hoppy Wobbles. Hoppy Wobbles is the finest bar show in the Bloomington area. It's the only one I've done.
Yeah, okay.
And it was actually the time I did it. It was some guy's first time doing comedy. I think he was like an MMA guy or like some kind of fighter.
Mm-hmm. Ari.
He had like an ear thing from the fights.
Cauliflower.
Yes. Yeah. But his whole family was there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So it was a nice crowd, because a lot of times the problem with that particular, like, there's no one there.
Probably because they can't remember the name.
Yeah. The first time I had a bad experience there, the first time I went, because it was like the guy who booked me on the show wasn't even there, and he's like, he was like, the bartender will run it. And then we got there, and it was just like a whole thing, and it was just like nobody was there. Oh. And we were doing it specifically because they give you extra time to do like longer sets. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to do 45 minutes in front of no one. Like, this is terrible. And then they have a mic afterwards, so everyone showed up after, and then they just got me even more pissed off. I was like, wait, now the people are showing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the first time I got to do 20 minutes was there, because it was like a good workout room to take chances. But you're right, nobody was there. It's
just totally thankless running a bar show, because people so often, it's so hard to make people show up to it.
Yeah.
That show, there's like a huge window in the front, so it's light. It's daylight within the room.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great for comedy.
No, it's good to be able to look your friends in the eye while you bum.
I feel like it's on like the non-college side of town too. So I feel like it's in Bloomington, but it's still like it's like a towny bar. It's not like you're not getting like walk-in college students, like, to pop in. But anyway, I got off track here. I was saying that I want to know your secrets, because I feel like you have these clips that just go everywhere, and like they're great. I mean, they're funny, but like I knew about you well before I ever met you, just from these clips coming all across America.
That's crazy. Well, thank you, first of all. But it definitely is, because that is the other like job that I do when I have to pick up jobs. I do social media for people.
Oh, okay.
And it's very much about thinking, what would people want to respond to, which is much easier for women, because most of my initial success was just people being like, she's not funny.
I hope she dies.
Yeah, like in general, like appearance stuff. It's good as if you post. I've got a big nose, whatever, it's fine. But if you post about that, then they realize it and they'll all comment it. And any engagement is what makes something do well.
So you're feeding the trolls.
Yes, it's like that's totally, and you've got to mute it. Like you don't want to really take any of that feedback because the positive's also not true. None of it's true.
Yeah.
But then eventually you do find people who actually like your comedy, in a couple months eventually. Yeah. But that does mean you can post a lot of stuff that's pretty low quality. Like I wouldn't necessarily stand by every single thing that I've posted.
Sure.
Sometimes I just know like, okay, this will feed it this week. But now I'm trying to make a shift back. I think I'm going to burn a bunch of material and just post material for a little bit.
Good clips.
Yeah, and then I'll delete it in like 6 months and reset that.
You look like you're having a real good time up there, and it's like there's a face, and it's in a bunch of your clips where it's like the moment that you realize someone said something stupid and giving you the in. Yeah. And I was just like, man, she's having a good time up there. Because I'm the opposite. I don't enjoy doing crowd work. Like if someone drops a tray of nachos or something, like I'll comment on it. But like my question is, because people see clips like that and they come to your show, do they want to engage with you even more and like mix it up? But you would like that, right? Like that's you would welcome that?
No, I think my energy is not that warm on stage. And so in general, people don't want to try to talk to me. Because most of the time, if I post the crowd work, I guess it's not, if I post heckle stuff, they don't look good by the end of it. And so in general, I think unless people are invited to talk to me, I don't have a huge problem with that. And I don't really encourage it generally. I'm trying to get better at, I think maybe it was Rory Scovel who said something about like whatever happens in the room, he tries to get excited about it and embrace it. I don't do that. I get angry.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
So I'm trying to be more like, okay, how could I use this as opposed to how can I shut it down as quickly as possible? I'm
still there. I'm still on that because I was headlining a bar show like a week ago.
Yep.
And there was just like one guy in the room that was talking. But I could tell it was like pissing the other comics off. It was pissing off some people that had come to see me. And I have no medium switch. It was just like, hey, and I was just like, can you shut the fuck up, please? And in my head, because I said please, it was nice, Yeah. And then he was like, oh, what, me? And I was like, yeah, you asshole. And, and then I just lost the entire audience. And I had to spend the next 5 minutes like being like, I'm not a monster, I promise.
I have done that. I've gotten too mean a couple of times. Yeah, it's like a balance because sometimes it's funny. Like sometimes if you're having an honest response, that's funny to people. But yeah, sometimes you're just a monster.
I think then you got a joke. You reset the room, fine. But yeah, in that moment.
Well, like a lady dropped a water bottle after that, and she looked terrified to pick it up. And I was like, no, man, come on. Like,
that's the thing. Like a lot of people don't see the heckling as negative, so they don't understand why you attack the person.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, they were having
helping
fun. They
the
were
show.
participating.
Yeah.
Someone's got to help the show.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of the clips, because they are showing crowd work clips, and some of them think that's what the show should be about, or
totally.
And they.
Well, and if you're like, so I opened for like Rocky Dale Davis, and I would say the majority of his set is kind of mixing it up with the audience, and people come to see that and they like that, but then they expect like the host and the feature to do that too, and it's just like, no, that's kind of the headliner's thing. Like,
yeah, like you're not really allowed to.
Yeah, you don't want to pick over all the. Like I noticed you in the back, like when they were doing it, I was like, oh, she's watching the whole show and like keeping track of what's being said and what's not. Because like the worst thing ever is like going to a mic where like the 25th person goes up and asks the same, and usually it's like a comic's boyfriend or girlfriend that's sitting in the front row, like, oh, where are you from? Like, we've been over this.
And then they'll never come back.
Yeah.
You just have this awful experience. I was actually surprised last night. Like not you guys didn't do a ton of crowd work.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if people were saving it for me or if it just like isn't really a thing out here.
There's not a lot of, I would say there's not a lot of like crowd work comics around here. No. And there's some like Brent Terhune can mix it up. I mean, like there's definitely people like, I think it's a thing that I would like to have in my toolkit, but like I write material, so I want to go up there and do the material. Like,
yeah.
But I will also want to have a better response than shut the fuck up.
I think like two things. I used to host more than I do now in New York. And in New York, if you host, you do crowd work. Like that's much more standard. I think because it's a showcase show, not a headliner show.
Yeah.
So it's a very different dynamic.
And you don't want to do the same like 10 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever. every week.
Yeah. And also in New York, often it's tourists. And so you have so many different kinds of people that you require a little bit more breaking them. Or breaking them in, I guess. Not
Breaking their spirits.
So I do it for that. But also, I mean, you're higher energy than I am, I think. You're not high energy, but no.
Was it the sparklers? Was it the sparklers I lit?
But I can make people a little sleepy. And I'm a little thinky, I think. I know I'm getting very intellectual. What a sophisticate. But it's helpful to have crowd work to break that rhythm if people disengage from it.
Yeah, chop it up a little bit. One thing I noticed, and it like makes sense now because you have a theater background, and like I would have assumed you've been doing comedy twice as long as you've been doing comedy. But it's what I noticed in my personal I guess dealings with people around here is that anyone that comes from like an improv background or like an acting background and then go into stand up, they're already so comfortable on stage. And it's just like if you can write a decent joke, then you're like golden. So like I've always noticed that with people coming, like there's always like the joke, like improv stand up, like rivalry, Sharks versus Jets.
Yeah.
But honestly, I can't think of anyone that's come from improv that did stand up that wasn't pretty good starting off with, or like better than someone starting off cold.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm the exception to
Except
that
for
rule.
you, yeah.
I did 2 improv classes and then started stand up, and
Just imagine how bad you would have been without those classes, though. It would have been rough.
I'd still be.
I always think of it as like when you're on stage, you're processing a lot of information. And if you have some sort of performance background already, you can just take some of that processing out. So you just start from an easier place.
It's a thing. Like I don't know how to put it into word. Like when like an open micer, if I had to tell them, like I don't know how to put it into words what you're doing that they're not doing, but there's something there, and it's just like I don't know how to explain stage presence to somebody.
There's a thing I learned in school. It's like first circle, second circle, third circle. First circle is when you're totally internal. That's like introvert. You're only dealing with yourself. And you can be talking to someone from that, but you're like looking down and not connecting to them.
Okay.
Second is an exchange. Like you're taking in information from them. You're giving information to them. And third is pushing out. That's like you're only yelling towards them, but you're not taking any of them in. And I think
You want to be 2.
yeah, you want to be in 2, but it's harder. Most people, like if they have no performance background, start in 1 because they can't take it in, or because they can't put themselves out, put out a point of view. And then some performers start in 3 because they don't know how
I'm
to.
a 3. Yeah, I'm a 3.
Oh no, you got 2 tendencies. But I think that's it for a lot of new people. They have too much going on to really take in the audience and do their thing at the same time.
I've noticed that there's like comics that start off and they'll be like there's some comics that have great stage presence and then just they don't know how to write a joke. Like they just don't know what it. And then there's some people that are great writers and they're just so awful on stage. Like there was a couple of people I was like, if I could just merge you two together, it'd be a great comic.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think the writing is the easiest part. Like if you sit down and write for 30 minutes, an hour a day, you'll get jokes. Now they might not all fit together. Like if you don't have a persona to like set those jokes, it's going to seem deranged as an hour and people might not laugh. But
I mean, there's some people around here that I don't know if amount of years or like they keep trying.
Wow.
Like there's a point where it's embarrassing to say how long you've been doing comedy.
Yeah.
Like if you've been doing comedy for 13 years and you're still an open micer, then I'm just like, I wouldn't tell anybody that anymore.
Yeah.
But then, like, you never know. Like, wow. Everyone just imagines someone very specific.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if they all listen to the Harder Brunch, so we won't name names.
But I think that, like, some of those people, something clicks.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're great because they just weren't able to translate their ideas to the audience yet. And finally they figure out how to do it. But then often it never clicks. And
I was like, how
Yeah,
patient
it's
do
like,
we have to
sometimes
be?
people wake up from comas, but how often is that?
Yeah. And then they make posts. Why am I not getting booked? Or I want to get booked. And it's a tough conversation or to tell them like you haven't clicked yet. Still.
Yeah, like you're not getting laughs, and that's the thing. Like I think the biggest.
Are you speaking directly to Dustin?
Did you do your prep research on me?
I'm sorry, I just looked into your eyes.
You can see
You're
the
not
void.
funny. No, I have never seen your stand up. I think the most important quality in stand up comedy, it's like none of the like, can you do act outs? It's not anything. It's can you take feedback? And if you can't take feedback, you're never going to be good.
Yeah.
You might be good once in a while. It's like a kid holding a baseball bat and spinning in a circle. Like you'll hit it sometimes, but if you can't take the feedback, you'll never learn.
I agree, but I also think at the beginning, like you don't like for me, like I didn't know who the people were that I should trust their feedback. I mean, there's people that I remember getting tags from people at the beginning that now I look back on them like you had the audacity to give me a tag, but I didn't know who they were, so I was like, this could be the best comic in the world. And I was like, no, it was always the worst comics that are trying to give you that hot tag. Yeah, you know exactly who I'm thinking of.
Because I think once you're good, you know that, like, okay, you might have a really good tag, but if you don't understand the person you're giving it to's voice,
right?
It's not useful to them. You might be taking them in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't something I would never say. Or
I give you those hot N-word tags all the time, Dustin. You never once use them. You use them off stage, but you will not use them on stage.
I would have liked to stand up so much better. You know, I mean, it's thrown a couple.
Well, Thad said I could, since I'm filling in for him, I can try a couple new jokes here.
Let's try it after the break. Let's try it after the first break. See if we make it to the first one. So you went to school in Indiana, in the high school in Bloomington, and then you got the hell out of here.
Yes.
Most of the best of us do. You go to New York for acting, and like, so what was your plan? Just going to college for acting? Like, what kind of acting were you interested in?
I went to NYU, and I had like 5 schools where if I didn't get into one of them, I was just going to take a year off because, it's not really worth it to go to like a bad acting school. Because it's so much about like your connections and that stuff.
Yeah.
So I came in, I think I wanted to do Shakespeare maybe, like not realizing there were like 2 women in Shakespeare. Like it's just not a good, And so I did that. I kind of did everything for a while. And then I graduated from the studio I was in at the end was the experimental theater studio. So that like my thesis, I guess what you'd call it. It was a electronic musical about a man with lobster claws for hands. It has not been staged since college.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, no, it was pretty high quality, really cerebral work. But yeah, so that was the plan. I was going to do theater specifically, not film.
Okay.
And just stick in New York, do regional stuff as it came up. But the union for acting, especially when I was coming up, is pretty brutal. It's like you have to work union shows to get union points to join the union, but you can't audition for those shows unless you have a union card. And there's like ways it's not like total, but it meant a lot of getting there at like 6 a.m. and then waiting until 5 to see if someone drops. It's just very silly.
Yeah.
And then when did you transition into stand-up comedy, or when did you start going what prompted that first open mic?
I was in a play called Rock, Paper, Scissors, where I played a rock. And,
some awesome plays. Lobster hands.
It was very experimental. And I think the rock couldn't have feelings, and so feelings would be like put on the rock with silly putty.
Okay.
So they would put silly putty on me. Yeah. And then our final show, like paper didn't show up.
Fucking flaky paper.
Classic paper. It was just so bad. Like, because with experimental theater, it's very hard to know if it's good or not.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not. And so I I had a friend who was doing stand-up, and I started doing it because it seemed much clearer when it's good and when it's bad. Like, obviously there's some nuance, but if they're laughing, there was something good. If they're not
you can get
laughing,
some more
it was
instant
bad.
feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of what prompted me to make a switch.
And
I just love it. Her last role was a rock.
yeah,
That's like,
that was her rock bottom. Hey,
Yeah.
you could have combined that, and then you could have had Rock Lobster, and you could have had B-52. You know?
That was the bow song for the Lobster musical. Yes. Yeah. It's bad to be young.
BJ's just shaking his head.
Yeah, that's a rock and a hard places to be, right?
there it is. There it is. Is this a suggestion then that we talk about Tinker Coffee? Tinker Coffee, as you had earlier, BJ. Now,
Amazing.
You're not a paid spokesperson.
No.
I just gave you some coffee and you were gushing about it.
I am. It was amazing. It was smooth. Like you could just. It was great. Like I recommend it. I just placed an order on my phone for it, so to be shipped to my house.
Did you use promo code brunch?
Of course I did. I've been following the show since the beginning.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
You can have it delivered right to your door. 25% off your first order if you use promo code brunch. It really has ruined me for like road coffee. Like when I go to stay at a hotel or whatever, and then like hit up the continental breakfast, I get so excited. And then I have that room coffee, which seems so convenient. It's right there. It's ready to go. And then I take that first sip and I'm like, oh, Tinker, I miss you.
That's how they get you.
I miss you. What's your least favorite thing about like doing comedy on the road?
I think it's mostly that you just don't know what you're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily know what the vibe of the space, like, it's not just like where they are on the political spectrum, but also like, do they want, because there are a lot of people who have a conception of comedy that's like a high energy, kind of dirty man who yells.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like those guys are there are a lot of very, very good guys who do that, but it's not what I do. And so sometimes when I get on stage, people are like very disappointed. And it's like, oh, well, I still have 40 minutes. So I guess we'll just keep going.
So much time left.
Yeah, definitely the uncertainty. Oh, and asking to get paid. That's such a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
When you have to like go and be like, so do we need to settle up? Or
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
You're just like, I feel bad. I held some people hostage one time on a show because it was like early days of everything. Early days of me doing comedy, early days of me booking shows. And I'd asked these people to do a podcast. They were spending the night. I set them up in an Airbnb and they were supposed to do a podcast the next day. Mm-hmm. And I just had the feeling they were just going to cut out and not do the podcast.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll pay you guys after the podcast tomorrow.
so funny. And they stayed for the podcast?
Yeah, they had to. Yeah.
All right. That's about right.
They did a great job. Yeah. No, like I had so much, like when I first started, we fell into these venues that were so nice.
Yeah.
Like we had no business running shows, and we had a weekly open mic that was just in a heavily trafficked area of like Fletcher Place, Fountain Square downtown. Mm-hmm. And so people would come to the open mic like it was a show. And so it was really great. It was like one of the best mics there for a while. And then the place we did shows right across the street at a distillery that I worked at. So we got the space for free. The distillery would give the comics like swag bags and stuff. They would comp their drinks. They had an Airbnb on site that we could use for free for the comics. Like it was just like all of this stuff that like, and then it just got worse and worse as it went on. We just started losing amenities as we eventually went on. But like I remember I put these two comics up in the room and they had just like built the Airbnb, and I guess they didn't know how to like adjust the temperature, and so it was like 90 degrees in the Airbnb. They were like sleeping above the sheets.
And they're still pretty grateful for it.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then the next time I couldn't get access to that Airbnb, so I was like, I'll just put them up somewhere. And my idea at the time was like, I just want them as close to the venue as possible.
Yeah.
But I went and I checked out the place first because I was like, I'm not going to put this woman up in a place that like is not safe. And I remember like I went there and like there was like a key, and I kind of looked around and it seemed pretty normal. And I checked out the room. The room seemed clean, and I was like, cool. I didn't realize that there was a man that lived in the house.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell her that. So I just set her in the house, and there's literally like, it was like the movie Parasite. Like there was just like,
oh no.
or barbarian.
Yeah,
too.
there was just like a dude in the house, but he didn't like say a word to her, and he was just like scurrying around doing stuff.
A
And,
silent man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
So like I don't think she's gonna do my shows anymore.
I try to do shows with my boyfriend a fair bit because it just does make it a lot easier. Like I always know, okay, this is the person I'll be staying with. No one's gonna get like super weird. It's helpful. It's my escort.
How come you didn't ask me what my least favorite part of traveling comic is?
What is your least favorite part of traveling? Driving me around?
Yeah, it's always fun because the way there, you're energetic. We have good conversations, and then without a beat on the way back, 5 minutes in, I'm like, all right, buddy.
Sleepy time. I've gotten used to like, I'm not a good traveler. Like I don't like long car rides. I don't like being in a car. I get very nervous if we're driving into like big city, like anything bigger than Indianapolis. Like driving into Chicago, I have like a low grade panic attack.
I mean, it's brutal. Even driving through Gary is like a nightmare.
Yeah. We're like 12 lanes of traffic and everyone's doing 90 miles an hour. I'm just like white knuckling the side of the car. So when I first started doing comedy, I was really bad at it. It was like, well, if you want to travel around doing comedy, you're just going to have to like get over it. So I feel like sleeping just cuts a lot of that anxiety down. I was just like, I'll be asleep when we die, so it's fine.
I am famously a bad driver, but my boyfriend can't drive.
Oh.
So he's just got to observe me.
Is it just like a New York thing because you don't have to drive?
Yeah, I barely drove before I moved to. I basically got my car a month ago, and before that, I'd driven 10 times in the last 12 years. So it'll come. Well, maybe it won't. I might not get better.
So is he a backseat driver? Well, look out for that or do that, or what's his demeanor like when you're driving?
He does this thing where he'll say, "Watch out for something." But he never points at it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the problem is. Or he reads the signs. Like we were driving and he would be like, "Stop." I'm like, "No, I'm bad at driving. I can read."
Green light means go. Come on.
But mostly I make him look out for deer when we're in rural areas.
Have you ever hit a deer?
Never hit a deer. No, not yet. I will. There's time. Have you?
Yeah, I used to deliver pizzas, and I hit one when I was out on delivery, and I felt so bad because like I knocked it into this like ravine, and it was still alive. And I was like looking at it, and I like went up and told the people whose house it was, and I was like crying and stuff. And then like I for some reason all this didn't look at my car, and then I went back out and my car is just fucked up. And then I just started like cursing at the deer. And just like, I hope you fucking burn in hell, deer. What you did to my car? I can't fix this. Can't afford to fix this.
I know my grandma did once. She got it like all up in the grill of her car. I don't know.
We were talking last night about her high school in Bloomington. There was a strip club right across the street called Night Moves. And like I've been to Night Moves before.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I've been to Night Moves.
Yeah.
That's the best way. I've been to Night Moves.
It was the most aggressive strip club I've ever been to. Like, really, like you'd walk in and girls would be like, "You want to take me for that dance?" I'm like, "I just walked in. I don't know what was happening before I got in here."
They used to have this billboard up that was like all the vice principals, but they bought it. So it was like, the way I remember it, you'd like see it immediately. And then after the strip club's right after it. So it looked like they were trying to either block it or advertise for it.
Was did you know anybody that worked there? Did you know of anybody that worked there?
My friend's friend, I think I may have mentioned this last night. She stripped like deep into her pregnancy.
Okay.
But she was the only one who I knew. I guess it didn't pay great for the
Is that why they were more aggressive too?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were just like, you got to make my night worth it. I'll be that.
They had to make some money. Yeah. It was man, I briefly worked not at Night Moves, but I was a bouncer at a strip club. Briefly, like we were talking about all the gross stuff at a strip club last night, and it reminded me of this, that there was a brother and sister. A brother that worked as he was the door guy, and his sister was a dancer.
Oof.
And so he just had to like look at his sister naked like half the day. And I was like, there had to be a better job. There has to be a better job because this is not like doorman paid real well.
No.
You know, like
What town was it in?
this was in Indianapolis.
Oh, my
This was. Do you remember there was like an incident years ago when the Pacers were involved in a shooting at a strip club? It was that strip club.
All right, so they were making good money.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, they had Pacer players there.
Yeah, it was a bad club.
It was
I,
bad, yeah.
I have a whole bit about it. I'm not doing that.
Because that's got to be weird. Yeah, we're around the holidays. That's got to be weird at Thanksgiving when you're in. How's work going for you, brother and sister? You know?
I will say
the strip club's going great.
I will say this about, I guess, nudity in general. Like, because like people are like, oh, is that so? And I'm like, you'd be surprised how quickly nudity becomes boring when you're at work. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like everybody walks, you see what everyone looks like naked, and then you have to still work a 9-hour shift together.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of girls smoking cigarettes, complaining about their kids and their bills. And it's just
Yeah.
like it's not the sexy romp you think it is. It's a lot of like, I gotta get a babysitter and blah blah. Like,
I mean, in some ways, maybe his family thought it was so beautiful. He's like protecting his sister.
Yeah.
Like this is a sibling dynamic.
Yeah.
I wish I had that support in my family.
let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
This week on the After Brunch Podcast.
I came in 4th the first time I did it, then 3rd the second time, and then like 130th this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like it is, and I don't know. I don't think it makes any kind of sense. And it's just like I guess it's really good for one person. You know,
Do you feel like you phoned it in the third time though? Be honest.
I definitely didn't prepare very. Like I didn't.
You thought you had it.
I just like went there and just like wrote a set right before I went up.
Yeah, that's the lesson you had to learn, man.
Yeah.
did you bring anybody?
Yeah, just like a girl that I thought I was gonna do really well. It was like a first date or something like that.
Oh shit!
You did a first date?
I mean, we had known each other, but that's like crazy shit out. And then
They got eliminated.
Wow.
yeah.
Join us at patreon.com/Harder Brunch.
And we're back. We do this thing every week. It's another one of our sponsors, which is Smoking Goose. And we had some of their delicious products today. We call it the Smoking Goose Brunch Breakdown. And that is, we just talk real quick about the menu that we made today. And we always try to have a theme, and sometimes it's based on a holiday, or sometimes it's based on, just a theme that we want to do. A lot of times it's based on the comic. And sometimes if I know very little about the comic, I just have to guess. So I did like rough guesstimate on the geography of places I believed you lived at one point. So the first course wasn't. It was just a salad.
It's fantastic salad.
This is a great salad.
But the first course was candied pecan and pomegranate salad. I like a nice seasonal salad. A nice, any chance to... I didn't really know the proper way to cut a pomegranate till this morning. I used to just hack at it like a madman, and I was like, I should know this.
I usually rip it apart. Is that not?
You're supposed to cut like a lid off of it, and then it's segmented into 4, and then you cut around the sides of it, and then it almost pops open, and they all fall out.
This is so embarrassing.
But
Does everyone listening to this know about it?
I mean, I didn't, and I should.
No, I didn't know that.
I went to culinary school. Yeah, easy to segment it in 2 minutes. And then this even cooler trick is you put them all like in a bowl of water, and the pomegranates will sink, and all the pulp will rise to the top, and then you can skim the pulp off and separate them.
This is a big day for me.
I had to go to 3 stores to find a pomegranate. I was they're like, all right.
Oh, they're not in season in Indiana right
They're
now?
just I went shopping on Black Friday, which was a terrible idea.
Oh, you did?
So like all the local places I normally go were closed, and like a lot of places were just like out of stuff randomly. So the first place that I saw that you lived was North Carolina.
Yes.
And you said you lived there when you were like a baby?
Yeah. Maybe moved at like 3 or 4. I don't know. I don't remember.
So no memories of North Carolina.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay. Well, that's good. So we did, and would you say your parents were teachers?
Yeah, they're both professors.
Professors. And would they work at the same like universities?
Yeah, so I think Durham, my mom was a grad student, so not like quite scandalous, or like finishing her PhD. And then my dad was a teacher, a professor, and then they went to State College together, and then Boston State College, Indiana.
Okay.
But yeah, they always tried to get jobs together.
Okay. So the sweet potato was like one of the main vegetables, like the official vegetable of North Carolina. And so I made a sweet potato hash.
It was so good.
And I used the pig and fig from Smoking Goose, pig and fig terrine, which, man, that thing, you throw that in the middle of like a charcuterie board with some bread, it's next level.
It was amazing. What is terrine? Just like a very sophisticated...
It's a pate.
Okay.
Yeah, like a force meat or a pate. We've had the owner on here before, and the guy's just amazing. Like he's a meat wizard. You know, he just does some amazing stuff.
I'm your meat guy.
And they're like, yeah, they have a place called Goose the Market, which does like deli stuff, and then this is their wholesale one. But they're sponsors of us. We like to use their product, and it's definitely a thing where it's like you can usually drop like a Smoking Goose product in any dish, and then people are like, oh, like this is really cool. I'm like, yeah, I didn't make that.
Yeah,
I just slipped it in there.
there hasn't been one bad thing I've had from Smoking Goose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, if you read, we're looking at the ingredients right now. Like the first 4 ingredients are pork, like different kinds of pork.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna get my dad some. That was really good.
And then the next course was because you lived in Bloomington, and so I was like, okay, well, I know Indiana cuisine very well, so we went with biscuits and gravy, and typically I would have gone and got Smoking Goose sausage, but they were closed. So I was like driving around looking for great local sausage, and everybody was closed, and it was like the last thing on my list. And finally, I was like, I'm just gonna season the hell out of this. But one of my favorite things to do making biscuits and gravy and making them very Hoosier is deep fried biscuits.
yeah.
I've never had those before. That was very good.
That was always something that like my grandma would have like a company party like in the summertime. And the caterers would always have deep fried biscuits and like apple butter and stuff. And I would like cut it in half and I'd make like a sandwich out of it. And it was always... You always were kind of sick the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah.
But it's worth it. Yeah,
Yeah, it was always good.
So
yeah,
good.
yeah. Biscuits and gravy are definitely one of my top 5 weaknesses.
Actually, given the amount I don't feel that bad right now, given like how much good food we eat.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to keep it right out of the Thanksgiving mode, you know, because like sometimes it can be a real sleepy podcast at first. And,
My stomach's like peak stretched right now. This is the time I can fit the most.
like, I don't want to talk about comedy right now. I feel ill. And then did I skip one?
Nope.
Okay. And then the dessert was New York cheesecake, which I realized sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I can cook that. I don't think I've ever made a New York cheesecake before. And I was like, yeah, I got all the ingredients. And then I like looked at it, I was like, got done with the show last night. I was like, 2 hours. I started making it at midnight.
Oh my God.
And so like I was like setting alarms and like watching TV, and like twice I fell asleep.
No.
And the alarm woke me up, and I was like, what am I doing? And I'm like, oh shit, you're still cooking. Let's not burn the house down.
That was great. The cranberry sauce was really good.
Thank you. I was trying to make it a little festive, a little holiday. And like sometimes the theme really just kind of helps put a through line full, because like none of that really makes sense without the theme. Like what we did biscuits and gravy, and then we had cheesecake, and it was all over the place. But it was fun to kind of do that regionally. I hope you liked it.
It was amazing. I feel like it's almost the same as like comedy. If you have a box, like you have some sort of restriction, it makes it so much easier to be creative and design something.
Work within it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about working like clean?
I can do it, but most of my jokes are like a tiny bit dirty. Like, so it's not, I wouldn't say I'm especially dirty as a comedian.
Yeah.
But everything's got like 1 or 2. So you cut most of my act if it's got to be like clean. And I also honestly think that like clean, it so depends on where you are, what is clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I kind of think it's an old idea based on when comedians were much more homogenous. Like comedians were 3 types. They're either black guys who only worked a certain kind of room, white guys, or Jewish guys who were at that time classified separately. And all of that was like one specific type. And the clean was honestly just the white guys. Like too much non-Christian religion, that wasn't clean.
Yeah.
Too much race, that wasn't clean. So now when we have so many more perspectives, I think there really is no standard for clean.
I've had so many different, like when people say that, I'm always like, can you give me a next layer of definition? Because like I remember working for a guy who wanted us to work. It was that steakhouse comedy guy, and he wanted us to work clean. But then like I tried to work clean the first night, and like Gwen's up there cussing and stuff, and I was like, shit. He's like, great job, and I was like,
Yeah.
I thought you wanted clean, but he very specifically had someone that like had gone on and had a whole bit about like it had to do with like menstruation and like all this stuff, and people are eating like baked potatoes, you know. And so like he just didn't want that.
Yeah.
But like he would say work clean, but like then I've worked for people that like were like no, like Mormon clean, like don't no cussing.
I think if they ask for, I sometimes ask like, is it the movie rating?
Yeah.
Do you want it to be G, PG, PG? You know.
I'll give them an example sometime. I have this like newer joke that I'm trying to figure out, that the title of it's just the skinless penis joke.
Okay.
But it's a clean joke. But I don't think it would.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even just saying skinless penis is like not clean.
I'm using the official title. Still. Yeah, no, I mean,
Can you look out skinless
no,
penis?
no, no, not on,
No, sorry.
not on Thad's
We want to
computer,
see.
not on his school issued computer. We've always got that in trouble so many times, just googling stuff on this.
On
Like,
this computer.
this isn't the Joe Rogan experience.
I text it to you, Dustin.
All right, perfect.
He's gonna get his. Yeah, I mean, like, I have a joke where I talk about making love, and I'm like, well, that's
It's TV clean.
yeah, but like, is that I don't yeah. Some people like, and then I'm also like, what do you guys want to talk about? Like, you want knock jokes? Like, what do we
Yeah,
like?
dad
There's a
jokes.
point of view. Like, I mean, I don't know. For certain opportunities, I've done it, but like, also it's just like I'm not like a rated G guy. Like
Yeah.
I like the stuff that I think is funny is, like I was probably laughing the loudest at your like dark jokes that were dividing the room last night. Like I was laughing I would like not even hear the audience response.
Yeah.
I would just laugh because it was like funny and it surprised me. And then I'd see like half the audience laugh and half the audience be like, oh, I shouldn't laugh at that.
Yeah.
That's a bad one.
That's the stuff I usually don't post online because I think, like in a club, people have consented to hearing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But online, they'll misinterpret it. But that's so crazy that, because I say some fairly terrible things sometimes, but that's technically clean.
Yeah.
And so you're more okay with hearing that than, I don't know, like a light cum joke.
Yeah, right.
That's strange.
We had a club. Yeah, it's not here anymore. That was
R.I.P.
squeaky. You had to be squeaky clean, and
Well, and
it didn't.
then that's fine. If like I'm also like if you take a gig and those are like the parameters of the gig, then like I always thought I never understood like the comic that would like take a clean gig and then go, they wanted me to work fucking clean out here, and then just like you're an asshole. You had a contract and you just like
you knew what you were signing up.
But this place would also like when you would go there, it'd be like, okay, work clean, but then they would almost kind of like try to talk you into being a clean comic when you were there. They were like, you don't need to use all those dirty words. Like you can, and like if one more person tells me I can, all right. If one more person tells me that I could, that I can make more money working clean, I'm like, we all know that. Okay, we all know we could get a corporate gig.
Yeah.
With clean jokes.
But I don't think it's like more virtuous. Like this idea that you're a better comedian.
Yeah.
I think if you're a versatile comedian, you should be able to do a lot of things. But because you're always clean, that makes you better. It's just what you're interested in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. How much clean time do you think you have?
15 maybe. Yeah.
I realized I have exactly 20.
Yeah.
I don't have 21. I got exactly 20. What about you, BJ?
I can do. I've tried to right now. I have no curse words in anything I say. But I use other words. But I use other creative ways. Like one of them is like.
But the content of what you're saying is.
Yeah, the content is like I refer to my wife's vagina as a Reuben.
Yeah.
That's point.
Yeah, so that way they have to imagine it. But I tried to do that without, because when I first started hosting, I didn't want to go up here and be the F. I love the host. Yeah. I love the host. I enjoy crowd work. I love mess with people. It comes from podcasting and my job as a trainer. Imagine that. I'm responsible for people's livelihoods. But that's what I learned from it, was like, just get up there and just be able to do that. But I've also learned is I also test the audience as a host. Like I have one joke where I can take it one there, then add a next step and then another step to see, like that way the rest, everybody that's coming up, like, okay, now we gauge. So I try to set it up for the rest of the comedians because it's not about me.
I always forget because I get used to doing longer sets and you have time to build trust. And then I'll get like on a shorter set and then I'll just get straight into like a raunchier joke and people are like, whoa, buddy, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, we didn't build the trust. I forgot.
I pretty religiously open on the same joke. And this one, it's getting to the end. I need to replace it. Usually I'll do it for like a year and a half. But it's because I do like to know, since I do that joke almost every set, I'm like, okay, I know how they'll respond to that. And if they're not responding to it in the way I think they should, okay, then this is going to be harder. Here's how I should reroute. Yeah. It's like my guidepost joke.
That's
smart.
That is smart. Like, yeah, there's definitely like a point usually in the act where I'm just like, oh, they should have been laughing right now. Like, they have been laughing. That was a couple weekends ago when I was on the road. It was like,
it always hurts when it's like, yeah, that's one of my top 3 jokes.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
They got nothing, and you're like, shit. Am I a good comic?
Yeah, there's something about like something that always hits not hitting that just feels like the rug got pulled out from under you. You're just like, no, that was a guaranteed laugh.
Yeah, and it's like if I don't know how that's gonna go, then I don't really know how any of this is gonna go. It's scarier.
But then I would find that crowd, they would laugh at the wrong parts of jokes. Like the stuff they thought was funny. I was like, that's the weakest joke. Like you love that. Okay, all right.
I will play a game where I'll ask them what they want. And the one I can do any time is dark, dirty, or silly. And then I'll give them something if they're really disengaged. Yeah. So that then they've picked their path and they have a little bit more buy-in.
Yeah.
But if I'm working on new stuff, I'll do like, okay, do you want to hear about my cat or my boyfriend? They pick one and you'll kind of go through it.
I think when I go outside of like, a big city, like outside of Indianapolis, and a lot of small towns will really like it, but I think like I have a big chunk about like race, and I feel like sometimes people just tighten up, like he's not trying to teach us anything, is he?
Totally.
And then I think once they realize like I'm just making jokes, then it's fine. But I feel like there's always kind of like, okay, like he's talking about being black. We'll see how that goes.
It's so crazy because it's often the like free speech people. They're like, you should be able to say anything, but they're very sensitive.
Sounds like some critical race theory. I know. They're indoctrinating the comics too now.
I remember having to say that one time. I was like, I'm not trying to teach anyone anything.
Yeah.
Do you not see the flags on the way in? They're hung from the school.
But also, like, those small town rooms will like be the most surprising because I think a lot of times too is like they're just excited that somebody came out to do comedy there.
Yeah.
Like there's
from the big city.
Yeah.
Like, they're from, even if it's Indianapolis, New York, wherever.
Like there's a town called like Rushville that's just like, an hour, 45 minutes from here. And we had a comic who was from there and like rented out like the main theater in town to do a show and brought us all out there. And it was, I don't know, it was, 300 people or whatever, but it was like the whole town was there.
Yeah.
And it was just like they were lining up to like buy merch and stuff afterwards, and they just and I was just like, when I walked in, I just saw I was like, I don't think this is gonna go well for me.
300 white people.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if they're gonna like this. And they liked everyone.
Yeah, that
also,
was a great show. Yeah.
One of the best things is when you hear a comic go up before you that is like they're they're not as good as me.
Yeah.
And they're killing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, this is great.
Though that makes me nervous because I'm like, oh shit, now I've got to keep it going. I'd rather someone not do too well in front of me. Because then I'm like, okay, now I know the bar is not high.
Because then if you don't do as well,
Yeah.
then you're going to second guess.
Like if I'm in a competition, I won't watch the person in front of me because I don't want to be comparing myself to them.
Yeah.
Have you had any luck in competitions?
So I did that the World Series, that thing. That was good. I think I won one of those. But I've been thinking about this a lot because you want to be able to kill for every audience, obviously, like that's the skill. But I also think you don't want to flatten yourself out. Like you don't want to take away what's unique about you.
Yeah.
And in the end, some of the most successful people have done that so that they're the most palatable.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that too early and lose your voice as a comedian.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of moving away from competitions because I think to make yourself reliably successful in them at my skill level, at a higher skill level, who knows, but to make yourself reliably successful at my skill level, you have to take away some of the edgier stuff, the unique stuff.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. I personally, I think I'm glad I've done the competitions that I have, but like, I don't like that's not how I approach comedy. You know, it's like to me, like comedy is a competition of me against myself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like I love the fact that everyone's different and everyone does whatever. But like, there's like some people on there, like man, like the person who won this year's like Indie's Funniest. I was in the finals and it was, I've never seen a more unanimous decision. Like all the comics, like everyone like that was in the contest was like, oh, she won.
Who was it?
Aisha Brown.
I don't know.
She like it was just across the board, the audience, the judges, the comic. Like once she went up, we were all like, oh, we're fighting for second place.
Do you think she was the best or was she the best that night?
She was the best, definitely the best that night, but she's also one of the best comics of the night.
That's awesome.
But I mean, we went, and then Dyke, like I told you, is like, but one thing that separated Dyke from some other people was how he looked like a professional comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way he held the stage, the way he went back and forth, the way he talked to the crowd, and there was no wasted motion. It was smooth, slow. So
I also went first, and I had one of the judges come up to me right afterwards and was like, never seen someone win, had to go first. And I was like, you didn't have to tell me that.
That's the thing about competitions. The order
The draw.
matters
Yeah.
so much. Like I very rarely see people win from first or even sometimes win from last if it's a late show because they're drunk, they're tired.
Yeah.
They're checked up
lapped
sometimes.
out,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't enjoy that feeling. We did one on we did like a bar show once. Where we drove like 3 hours. We drove 3 hours to Evansville, Indiana. And then like the guy who was putting it on, basically it was like his favorite comedian was in the contest. And it was like the most like transparent thing. And it wasn't just his favorite comedian. He was also like the hometown hero of this bar. Like he lived one town over.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could have just mailed you my money. Like you didn't have to drive down here for this.
Yeah. Because when they they were like, oh, this next guy, he's everybody's favorite comic.
Yeah.
Or he's the hometown. And it was like, what the fuck did we even,
I mean,
why is it a competition?
When jokes are built in a room, they're just going to do better because that person has an exact idea of like what the parameters of the room are, what the room likes. I hate competitions.
It's so,
It was a money grab.
you feel so, I don't know, like I feel so different. Even like by the end, we had a bunch of stuff that we had been doing. So like by the time I was in the finals, like I just wanted to be done with it one way or another. And like, you know, I had a good set. I was happy with what I did. The person won who should have won. Like it was fine. But then afterwards, everyone's like, oh, it's okay, man. And I'm like, look, I'm not. You doing this is making me feel worse than I was feeling. Like, I was fine with not winning.
Yeah. This is the thing. I am a sore loser. I'm like the worst loser. And I'm not mean to the other people, but I have to go sulk about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, why even do it? Why put yourself through it?
Yeah.
just buy someone a drink or pick up their bar tab, right? That's all you have to do.
Yeah, it was real nice.
Oh, that's a good picture of you on the website.
Yeah, well, that was 100 pounds ago. That was before that was like my first year in comedy.
It's like some Sammy Sosa whitewashing.
There's that Grant Weber we were talking about.
Yeah, young Grant.
Says the
He's
says what do he say?
Nice pixelated picture there, Grant.
yeah.
The N-word's coming back. Is that what he said?
Heard it here first.
Said it's like a boomerang.
If you're listening, Grant, there you go.
Okay, please take that picture of me off. I've gotten into Ubers before, and the Uber driver's like, doesn't look like you.
That's so mean.
All right, man. All right.
I don't know any of these. It's so crazy how many comedians there are.
Oh, but then also, like, we don't know half of these people.
Yeah.
These people
Interesting.
came out of the woodwork.
I love it when
crazy.
they're like, oh, they're competition. This is their first time on stage, and they signed up for a competition.
That guy has a microphone in his name.
Yeah, what? Oh, yeah, Mike Shaw.
Mike Shaw.
Yeah, a lot of these people, like, you'll never see him again.
Yep.
Interesting.
I love the more ostentatious the stage name, the worse they usually are too.
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, you can tell they spend a lot of time on their stage name and no time on stage.
Yeah.
Oh, there I am.
Oh yeah, there was some
Yeah, there's
real
my-
characters there.
Yeah, look at that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Lumiere.
That's a killer name. Though.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like the first 2 rounds you or just assume that you move on. It's like, I'm going to feel real bad if I don't move on with this guy
Yeah.
who's first time on stage, this person who's clearly medically insane, you know?
But then they brought 40 friends and they move on.
And also the thing is, I think when the show is not strong, the audience can get confused and they start to respond to weird stuff.
Yeah.
So if the show's been pretty weak, I think then the audience will sometimes go to really edgelordy stuff because they want to be shocked.
Yeah. They just want something.
Yeah.
The guy doesn't even get a
man
name.
with no
Break.
name. I have a lot of trouble. There's some comics I have trouble following because one of the like rules of my set is almost everything's true or could be true in some way. But if someone goes up before me who lies a lot, it's weird for me to follow because it breaks that idea of truth, and then my jokes seem less. They just hit less hard. They're less real.
That's interesting. So that was kind of an interesting topic to bring up because, like, I was curious about this, like the whole like Hassan Minaj controversy or whatever. Because, like, again, like you talk about like the First Amendment people. Like, I'm just like, well, yeah, I never thought that what we were saying, like, and I don't know, I didn't do a deep dive to see like was he going on podcasts and saying this stuff is true? Like, I feel like that's a little bit different than like. In your act, you should be able to say what, like, I mean, is Larry the Cable Guy speaking like the God's honest truth? Yeah. Like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Did he really get her done? I mean,
we don't know.
Did you get her? I feel like the problem for Hassan was I don't know him. I've never worked with him. But it's not that he can't do it. It's that his audience valued his work because they thought it was true. So it's not like he's like done some terrible thing. It's that what people believed about him is no longer true. So they're no longer fans. But whereas like they tried to cancel like Joey Diaz a while ago, but everyone who was a fan of Joey Diaz was like, yeah, we love everything you're saying about him.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we like him.
Yeah, right.
So it didn't work. But for Hassan's people, they thought, because I think he had one about like his daughter having an anthrax scare. And that's heavy to make. And it's a long story. Or like the girl who dumped him for the prom, and it seemed pretty racial. But he like totally made it up.
Like, well, you could imagine what it'd be like if they did.
But people looked her up and doxed her.
Oh, shit.
And she got in touch with him and was like, hey, could you tell people like this isn't true?
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything. Like he didn't say. So that's where it starts to blur the lines for me of like what's going on here. And again, I don't know him. I guess this piece he was like really open with the reporter, but she didn't tell him it was a hit job. So that I don't know. That's kind of complicated.
Right.
Like, you know what? I lie all the time. It's fine. But yeah, I guess I don't know what the difference between like embellishing and lying when it comes to your like stand-up comedy.
Can I intertwine?
Yeah.
Like, so I do bits about me and my wife being married together 25 years, right? So one of the bits, some of it's like one of my best jokes is not true, but it's something her and I have talked about. Like, I have sleep apnea and I'll take NyQuil. And there's been times like right before shenanigans, like she's fallen asleep or I've fallen asleep during mid of it. I was like, could you imagine if I fell asleep going down on you?
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, it'd probably be great because you'd snore. And I turn it into a joke, right? So that aspect, I get it, right? But like anything that's like trying to get you like, oh, like, you know.
Yeah, if you were like had a joke about your kids or something, like
like
just doing something that wasn't true.
Or bringing in my being part Hispanic or whatever and saying how much adversity I overcame. I'm like, what adversity? You know what I'm saying? But he had a prominent career of like eventually taking over for the Daily Show, right?
They never announced it.
It
but
looked like he was going to be the
he
guy.
was going to be the guy. Yeah.
And that's probably where, you know, Comedy Central, and I think they're owned by Viacom. Yeah, which owns MTV and everything. They're going to put a bunch of money behind them, and you know, so.
I mean, when I was at that comedy festival, that Steve Ranazizi dude was there, and I'm like, yeah, it's the guy that lied about 9/11. He's right there.
Oh my God. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah. What if I come out and say, I really haven't been sober over 5 years. I've been secretly drinking off stage all the time.
I would just call that the prestige. He was like, man, this guy, he really fooled us all in the best possible way.
All my sober material's full of shit. Yeah.
Speaking of not drinking, we're sponsored by Upland Brewery.
Nice.
Upland Brewery. I just started my 6 months of not drinking today, so I will not be having to. Usually that's what that is always. You can always count on him to drink an Upland beer.
And they have the champagne one, correct?
The Champagne Velvet. Yeah.
I had that 2 weeks ago.
This is a great what I call like cutting the grass beer. You know,
I don't drink. I had that smooth.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. Even picked some up on the way home.
They Upland is
for my kids.
Upland is sponsoring us. We're having an event. No, this will be out tomorrow. I don't know when this will come out. The 29th, it's called Merry Chuckle Fest. We're going to be doing our first live podcast that's not at a comedy festival. We'll see if anyone actually wants to come out and see it instead of just forcing it on people like we normally do. But Upland's going to be giving away some great prizes. Very excited. I heard a rumor that old Saint Nick might be dropping in. Nice. We're going to have some of our friends, Sarah Pop-Tarts performing. Nate Robinson, some special guests.
It's at the White Rabbit, right?
The White Rabbit, sponsored by Upland. Yeah. Tickets are on sale on eventbrite.com. Come check us out, and always go support Upland Brewing. They were I guess you would have been underage when you were in Bloomington.
Yeah, and I was never a big beer person, but you're selling it so well that I'm ready to try some.
Well, they were like started off in Bloomington, but then they were also like they were the ones in Parks and Rec. Anytime you see them drinking a beer, they're drinking an Upland.
Oh, that's so fun!
So I like to pretend that we're in the Parks and Rec expanded universe.
Well, then right there is a part of line that the review we're talking about.
Yeah.
Perfect show. That's already sold me on this. That's incredible product placement.
Can you drop a beat for me there, BJ? Anna, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You were wonderful. I'm so glad you could make time to come by. Where can people find you, follow you on social media, and keep up with everything that you're doing?
Anna Bianco on all socials. I should make a website, but right now, that's all I got.
Oh, yeah. She's got some really great clips. Go give her a follow.
Yes, absolutely.
Dustin Burkert, where can people find you?
Yeah, at Dustin Burkert on all the Instagram.
I almost
Facebook, MySpace. You can follow me on MySpace.
I almost forgot Thad wasn't sitting in there.
Follow me at Thad Mckee. Yeah.
All I see is glasses. BJ?
BJ _Robbins on Instagram, Fresh and Clean, Instagram, Facebook. And then me and Dustin still have our AOL Messenger if you'd like to send us a message.
It's every year on Cyber Monday I have to resist the urge to say age, sex, location. Because only old people get that joke anyway. Casey Campbell?
Yeah, you can find me on Reddit, but under different names. doing psyops. You can find me on Instagram at Danger Brewery, and please be on the lookout for the GoFundMe that I've been posting. I've already hit a 30% goal. We are well on our way. Nice.
You can find me at Dyke Michaels across all social media. We also have a Patreon, guys. Go to Patreon /Harder Brunch. Only $3, and you get access to our deep library of episodes. Also get some fun stuff, and you get first chance to get tickets to a lot of fun events that we have. We have a Merry Chuckle Fest coming up, but then we also have meat cakes coming up in February, and this is gonna be the biggest meat cakes of all. We're gonna be at the Museum of Art. Like, it's crazy.
It's wild.
Like, it's insane. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.